Ready, and action! Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Time for part 3 of a yet another brilliant lecture with Professor Victor Singing Eagle here at Sisseton Wahpeton College. Dakota 210, Native American Literature. Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. And now, without any further ado, it's that time. Your host, Professor Victor Singing Eagle. Hooray! Right on. Where were we? We were discussing Daniel Heath Justice's book, Why Indigenous Literatures Matter. Now, the last time we were chatting, I was telling you about this woman, Ella Cara Deloria, who wrote a book called Water Lily. And this was written way back in, I want to say, the earliest part of the 20th century. And Water Lily, I'm just going to keep reading because I don't have much time and I make my videos too long anyway, and I talk way too much. So here we go. We are on page 44 of Why Indigenous Lives Matter by Daniel Heath Justice. Okay, here we go. Water Lily's gradual understanding of her place within her new kinship network and the profound mutuality of responsibilities that come from such an understanding serve as the novel's central concern and help her place the reader within that growing awareness. Stop again. One thing that's cool about Native American literature is oftentimes we will bring our reader into the novel, draw that person in, and let that person, maybe for the first time in his or her life, see through Native eyes. Let me keep reading. Now we're skipping over to page 45. Birth, death, love, loss, longing, laughter, we all encounter the stuff of lived experience as she travels with her new family on their annual cycle through Dakota territory. We are embedded in a fictionalized but carefully rendered Dakota world of careful observation or social duty of gentleness and profound care. We're also in a world of conflict, of resentments, and failed obligations. Let me skip down. Oh, right. This is something. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to highlight this page 45 where she's with her new family because she's married into another family and she's finding her place in this family. And as she's with her new people, there is a group, another family of misfits or outcasts who wander into and join the camp. And everyone is so surprised that they don't follow native tradition very well, and they're kind of obnoxious in some respects. I'll read a tiny bit. It says here, they are rude, disagreeable bunch, likely outcasts without even the basic social graces. The warriors suspected the children are the result of incest between the man and his daughters. Water Lily's camp, nevertheless, offers generous hospitality to the strangers out of human decency and for their own reputations as hosts. And so, wow, it says here the man himself is shifty eyed, his wife is disengaged, his children are boorish and bratty, and people are wondering, these are the Dakota people wondering, well, who raised these people? What kind of human? This is a very common theme in a lot of these older Native American literatures. Now, I'm going to skip over, but I do want to keep that highlighted or highlit, whatever the word is, this idea of this alienness of native culture to non-natives. They don't relate to what we're talking about very well sometimes. This idea that we bring in guests and we welcome them no matter how obnoxious they are. Or in the case of Crow and the deer people and the bear people and the mosquito people, there's a bunch of different versions of that story where he meets the slug people. And he also talked to the flea people. Anyway, all of the peoples as natives or in part of native culture, we're supposed to treat our guests with respect and dignity and welcoming, and we serve them food. Anyway, now let me keep reading. This is on page 48, I think it is. Let me see. No. Yes, it is. Page 48, this is what I was talking about. Many of us today, indigenous and non indigenous alike, were born into a social context of some degree of familial fragmentation and mobility, where family are those people visited across vast distances on holidays. I'm messing this up. It's what I was telling you a minute ago. This idea that we are now moving toward the nuclear family versus the extended family. Tell you another quick itty bitty story because the book gets boring sometimes and me standing up here reading to you. Now, you guys know that I'm an urban Indian, born in Los Angeles, way, way back. In those days, houses were cheap, $14,000. My dear old dad, when he first bought his house. Well, the thing about it is, as urban Indians, we still lived in extended family clusters. And when we moved, we all moved together because houses in those days, again, were cheap. So when the matriarch, we had two, they picked up and moved from one neighborhood of Los Angeles to another. So did all the other little Indians in our family. We all just picked up and moved like that. And no, we were not rich. We were quite poor. Back in those days, we lived in poor neighborhoods where houses were cheap. Dad's first house was $14,000. When he worked his butt off with a telephone company, got a little richer, and grandma and the other grandma moved to another part of town because they were also getting a little richer, moving up. They all moved to a nicer area. Dad's second house was $35,000. Pretty cheap still by today's standards. Never mind, I'm talking too much, but this is what the book is telling us. We live in extended family clusters, and we're starting to move away from that. That's kind of what he's lamenting there. How are we doing on time? Because I talk way too much. Let me see. It says here 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, as we move to, part 3 of today's lecture, I'm going to draw your attention to this fella, Gary Hobson, Cherokee, Quapaw, Chickasaw. He is my old English teacher at the University of Oklahoma. Oklahoma, where the wind comes. Stop singing. Never mind. Now, Gary Hobson, even though he looks like a white guy, he's actually real native, and he has got a very soft voice, and he's very gentle when he talks to people. And he wrote a really awesome book, and as you guys know, I'm an Indian nerd. The biggest kind of Thomas builds the fire Indian nerd you ever met. And whenever Daniel Heath Justice mentions a book, I go out straight to Amazon and buy it. And I didn't know that my old professor, Hobson, and I just emailed him the other day, and he answered me. But I didn't even know he wrote this book called The Last of the Ophos, which is sort of a spin on The Last of the Mohicans. This is in Daniel Heath Justice's book, page 49. So I'm going to stop it right here, and when we pick it back up, I'm going to tell you a little teeny tiny bit about Gary Hobson and The Last of the Ophos. So thank you so much for being so kind and patient with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. 9 minutes and 20 seconds.